Welcome back to Raising Adults, because God didn't give us kids to raise children. He gave us kids to raise adults. Today we're talking about one of my favorite VBS truths. Jesus is with me. And honestly, kids aren't the only people who need that reminder. Today I'm joined by Caroline Hawks, our preschool director. Caroline is not only incredible with preschoolers, she's also a behavioral specialist, a mom of 4, and the most competitive person I've ever met, probably.
That's probably true.
Yeah, definitely true. Definitely true. I'm pretty sure if we turned today's podcast into a race, you'd immediately start stretching and warming up.
Yeah, weeks ago.
Weeks ago. That's true. You'd been training for weeks, for sure. So she's the kind of person who can run a half marathon, keep VBS from falling into chaos, and somehow coach a kid through a meltdown before most of us finish our cup of coffee.
Well, thanks, Heath. I try.
But, at the same time, I don't want to paint too perfect of a picture, because also as a mom of 4, I'm assuming your minivan currently contains at least 3 water bottles, 7 unmatched socks, a science project, and enough crushed Cheerios to feed a small nation.
I think that would be generous on what it could look like right now.
I definitely remember those days as a dad of 4. We had that same struggle. You know what? And honestly, I think parents need to hear that, because you're not speaking as someone who has life perfectly together. You're living this out every day just like they are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about being perfect. It's just about being present sometimes.
Absolutely. I love that. It's not about being perfect, being present. And today, kids learned about Jesus walking on water and Peter stepping out of the boat. Why do you think kids connect so deeply to this story?
I think that at every age, there's an experience that kids go through where they're scared, they're fearful.
Yeah.
They are challenged to trust, the people in their lives,
Absolutely.
trust God. There's a lot of uncertainty in different stages with kids. And so when they hear this story, they get to kind of experience all of those components, but also end it with this really amazing kind of redeeming piece of it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I think parents often struggle with knowing how to respond when kids feel that anxiety, when they're afraid or maybe overwhelmed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can feel overwhelming. Like, am I getting this right? How do I respond to my kids when they're feeling these things? How do I help them?
Right.
I think the biggest thing is to always validate what they're feeling, name it, and say, hey, like, I know that this can be scary. Tell me about how you're feeling right now. It can feel hard on the kids' end if they're feeling like they're being kind of brushed off, and making sure
good.
they know that it's okay to feel fear sometimes and feel kind of like what's going to happen. It's important to connect those emotions with truths that we know.
I love that.
And so helping kids identify God's presence and his ability to kind of walk through those moments of fear and anxiety.
No, absolutely. That's a really great word. Caroline, you, as I said earlier, lead our preschool ministry. And one thing I love about preschoolers is that they're naturally curious. I mean, they are constantly asking questions. Why did God make that? Where does Jesus live? How does God hear our prayers? Sometimes as parents, it's the why, and we can get tired of all the questions if I'm really honest sometimes. But what would you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. As a mom, as someone who works with preschoolers all the time, I can definitely relate to being like, I don't know if I can hear the word why one more time. Right. But I think sometimes I try to recenter myself and remember that those questions are really a gift. Kids are such just little people that love to be curious about things. They have this natural sense of wonder. Kids are learning that God made the world. He made them in it, and he made all the things that there are. And so that is something that they are just starting to discover. I think helping kids be rooted in the fact that it's okay to ask those questions, to know in response to those questions the same truth of God made you, God loves you, he's bigger than all of these questions and fears that you have.
That's exactly right. It's kind of sad when you really stop and think about it that as adults we lose that wonder sometimes, and it's just really refreshing to see the world through that young child's eyes. It's so good. Sometimes parents think questions are a sign of doubt. when really questions can be part of how faith begins to grow. And I really think if your kids are talking to you, that is a very good thing. The more you establish that you are the best resource when they have questions about life, about God, about doubt, fear, whatever it is, that they're coming to you. That is so important, because I can assure you our culture is ready and waiting to answer those questions for them. But unfortunately, what they're going to get there is counterfeit.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonder is often the very first step towards trust with your kids.
Oh, that's so good.
And when kids learn that they can bring their questions, their fears, their doubts, and all of those curiosities, not only to you as their parent, but even more importantly to God, they're building a foundation that can last for years.
Wow.
We want to validate that.
Absolutely. And that trust becomes really important when life gets scary, because the goal isn't for our kids to never feel afraid. The goal is for them to learn where to run to, and more importantly, who to run to when fear shows up.
Yeah, that's so good. I think letting families feel this validation that they can also share with their kids that this is something they feel as parents and as adults.
Yeah.
It helps normalize for kids as they're growing up that fear is a normal part of life.
Right.
The question is, what do we do with that fear and who do we turn to?
Right. And something I tell kids all the time, like, courage is not the absence of fear, right? Courage is doing the right thing, even though you're afraid. So in that fear, we can still know who we can do. We can still do the right thing. We still know who to go to and those sorts of things. So instead of simply saying, don't be scared, maybe we help our kids learn to say, Jesus is with me even when I feel scared. That's a very different message.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, and we're not teaching kids to ignore their feelings.
Right.
We're teaching them to trust Jesus in the middle of those feelings. One of the things I have really focused on with some of my kids recently has been not only knowing that Jesus is with them and is present there, but asking kids to ask you to pray with them.
Oh, that's
I think that's a huge piece, knowing, hey, we can ask God to be with us. We can talk to him about it, and sometimes naming those things and saying them out loud creates such a sense of peace in kids.
That is so good. That's really, really rich. And some easy questions parents can ask tonight are, why do you think Peter stepped out of the boat? Have you ever felt like you were in a storm emotionally? And what helps you remember Jesus is with you?
That's so good. I think that will create an opportunity for a lot of really good conversations with your kids. And I would just continue to encourage you as a parent that emotional conversations that sometimes feel a little like, oh, I'm not sure how to navigate this. These can still be spiritual conversations. You're teaching your kids how to trust who God is, how to trust that he's going to be with them no matter what, and to create these foundational truths that will walk through their life with them as they navigate the emotions that we're going to still have through adulthood. So letting them know, hey, these are things I feel too. And what I do when I'm scared or when I'm not sure about something is I just talk to God about it. I know he's always there with me.
I love that. And I think it's so important to just embrace those emotions, because that's a part of what makes us human, and God made us that way. So just embrace that. Keep having the conversations. That's a really great word today, Caroline. Thank you so much. And parents, thank you for leading these conversations at home. Tomorrow is a huge day at VBS as kids hear the gospel clearly. And our elementary director, Sarah Deck, will help us navigate salvation conversations with wisdom and confidence. We'll see you tomorrow on Raising Adults. And remember, God doesn't give us kids to raise children. He gives us kids to raise adults.